Hello and welcome back to Euro Football Daily, where today we're leaving behind the Kylian Mbappes, Cody Gakpos and Lionel Messis of this world and talking about 10 genuine shock stars of the 2022 World Cup. Let's go. 10. Alvaro Morata. Now 30 years old and with a CV that includes Real Madrid, Chelsea and Juventus, unlike many of the other names on this list, Alvaro Morata was not an unknown entity going into this tournament. But with a reputation as an average finisher, having underperformed his expected goals in the last 6 completed campaigns, Morata has been an easy target for criticism and abuse throughout his career. And when Luis Enrique picked Marco Asensio, who has only started one league game this season, ahead of him for the opening match against Costa Rica, it looked like this would be yet another tournament that passed Morata by. But introduced after 57 minutes, the Atleti striker wasted little time in making his mark, growing a goal and an assist in 33 minutes. And when he added La Roca's opener 8 minutes after coming off the bench against Germany and netted their first in a shock defeat to Japan, he looked like a shoo-in for the knockout stages. However, Luis Enrique inexplicably left the man averaging a goal contribution every 46 minutes, just 4 minutes more than Mbappe, on the bench again until the final 27 minutes against Morocco. He no doubt came to regret that decision as they crashed out on penalties for the second successive World Cup, leading to his departure from the Spanish setup. 9. Valencia. Best known on these shores for an underwhelming 2-year stint at West Ham and a loan spell at Everton, a Premier League record of 11 goals and 6 assists in 75 games was a poor return for a player that cost the Hammers £15 million on the back of 3 goals at the 2014 World Cup. But back on the biggest stage of all, and the Ecuador striker came alive once again. With 38 international goals to his name, Valencia is Ecuador's all-time top scorer, and his average of 0.49 goals per game is the same as what Robin van Persie managed for the Netherlands, and more than what Wayne Rooney, Thierry Henry and Samuel Eto'o delivered for their respective nations. And unlike so many other strikers, he's consistently done it on the biggest stage, with his 6 World Cup goals only topped by 31 players in the history of the game. And what is more remarkable is that Valencia has managed this in just 6 appearances, with his strike rate of a goal per game ranking 20th in the all-time list for players to have scored at least 5. A bona fide Ecuador legend, it should have come as no surprise to see Valencia deliver again in Qatar. 8. Sylvain Widmer. While Brielle Mbolo, Manuel Akanji, Nico Elvedi and Jan Sommer were the bedrock of Switzerland's run to the last 16, we've chosen to shine a light on one of their more unheralded stars, right-back Sylvain Widmer. While many of his teammates play for big clubs including Gladbach, Man City, Arsenal, Newcastle and Monaco, Widmer has represented Mainz since 2021, with his 4 goals and 5 assists in 21-22, helping his side finish 8th, just 6 points off European football. But look at his statistics in the Bundesliga and he looks fairly unremarkable, with his tackles, aerial wins and clearances all ranking in the bottom 50% of defenders and his pass accuracy at a lowly 75%. But he certainly rose to the occasion in Qatar, with his 12 tackles and interceptions more than any other Swiss player, while he also led his side for clearances. He even limited Vinicius Jr. to 1 successful dribble in their 1-0 defeat to Brazil, no mean feat. And when he and Elvedi were forced to miss their last 16 clash against Portugal due to injury, the side fell apart, conceding 6 goals in their joint heaviest World Cup defeat. 7. Andreas Noppert. Representing your country in a World Cup is a daunting enough prospect as it is, but imagine making your international debut in the competition in a group you were expected to win. That was the situation facing Netherlands goalkeeper Andries Noppert, who won the race to be Louis van Gaal's number 1 ahead of Ajax's Remco Pasveer. This was surprising as the 28-year-old is incredibly inexperienced at any level, let alone the international one, having only played 3 top-flight games prior to 21-22, having spent the majority of his career in the Dutch second tier or in Serie B with Foggia. To say he has seized the opportunity would be a massive understatement. He's saved 88% of the shots he's faced and prevented 2.3 expected goals in 4 games at the time of writing, a figure only topped by Poland's hero Szczesny. With 20 sides averaging fewer than their 13 shots conceded per game, the Dutch have underwhelmed. If it wasn't for Gakpo at one end and Noppert at the other, they may not have made the quarterfinals. 6. Salem Al-Dossari. Very little was expected of Saudi Arabia going into this World Cup. They may have lost just 1 of their 20 qualifying games, but their form in 2022 was unspectacular with 4 wins from 14 games. But everyone knows what happened next. 1-0 down to Argentina within 10 minutes, they could have been 3-0 down after 30 were it not for 2 disallowed goals, but fought back to win 2-1, beating one of the favourites for the competition and complete one of the great World Cup shocks. And while their first goal had more to do with a clearly unfit Cristian Romero, their second, scored by Al Hilal winger Salem Al Dosari, was a thing of beauty. Picking up the ball on the left-hand side of the box, he turned Rodrigo de Paul inside out before arching a curling shot over Emi Martinez. And when he then scored a 95th minute goal to knock Mexico out, he made sure his name will forever be remembered in World Cup history. Having fired off the most shots and created 3 times as many chances as his teammates, Al Dosari made memories for the Saudi fans that will last a lifetime. 5. Wojciech Szczesny. Ask any Arsenal fans about Wojciech Szczesny and they'll likely shrug their shoulders and say, seemed like a nice guy, solid but unspectacular keeper, but we think they might need to start altering their assessment. Since departing North London for Juventus via a 2-year stint with Roma, the 69 capped Poland international has helped ease the transition from the legendary Gianluigi Buffon, helping his side win 3 league titles and a brace of Coppas Italia, also being named Serie A Goalkeeper of the Year. And after years spent fighting with West Ham's Lucas Fabianski for the number 1 jersey for his country, since 2021 he has been the de facto first choice and carried that confidence into Qatar. He was mesmeric in the group stage, making 4 saves against Mexico, 5 against Saudi Arabia, including a penalty from the aforementioned Al Dosari, before repeating the trick against Lionel Messi. With Poland progressing courtesy of conceding 1 fewer goal than Mexico, it's safe to say that Szczesny preventing 3.6 expected goals in the group stage, by far the most in the competition, was the sole reason they had the opportunity to face France in the last 16. 4. Harry Souttar. Very few people gave Australia much of a hope in Qatar. After finishing 3rd in qualifying behind Saudi Arabia and Japan, the Socceroos were forced into the playoffs, where they narrowly beat the UAE and Peru on penalties to earn a spot at their 5th successive World Cup. With no players in Europe's top 5 leagues in their squad and drawn in a group containing defending champions France, Denmark and Tunisia, Graham Arnold's side seemingly didn't stand a chance. But after a courageous defeat to France, they pulled out back-to-back 1-0 wins to seal a place in the knockouts for the first time since 2006, the days when Cahill, Viduka and Kuehl were at their peak. And central to those victories was Stoke centre-back Harry Souttar. Born in Aberdeen, the 6'6" centre-half represented Scotland's under-19s before switching allegiances in 2019. But no one could doubt his commitment to the cause, with a crucial block on a goal-bound shot against Tunisia, a pass that helped set up Lecky's famous winner against Denmark, and a monster challenge on Kasper Dolberg as their opponents push for an equaliser. Having fought valiantly in a losing cause against Argentina, the Aussies and their towering centre-back have gained legions of admirers. 3. Alexandro. When Cheech picked a Brazil squad with the target of winning an elusive 6th World Cup, the onlooking world trembled at their incredible depth, particularly in attack. However, a seemingly clear weakness in the side was at fullback, with just Alexandro, Alex Telles, Danilo and Dani Alves to choose from. But how wrong we were. Brazil waltzed into the knockouts with a defence that conceded just 5.5 shots per game, second only to Argentina. And key to that was Juventus' Alexandro, who prior to picking up an injury that forced him to miss the thrashing of South Korea, had basked in the responsibility of being first choice left back. Only Casemiro can top his 11 defensive actions to date, while he also ranks first for clearances and 4th for both passes into the final third and progressive passes. In a tournament in which so many of the older generation have failed to fire, it's comforting to see someone in the latter stages of their career bring their A-game to Qatar. 2. Antoine Griezmann. We can never be sure what Didier Deschamps would have done if Karim Benzema had been fit for the World Cup. Perhaps Antoine Griezmann would have lost his place in the starting lineup, but we doubt it. Not only is the Atleti forward very much Deschamps' man, having started every tournament game for France since the quarterfinals of Euro 2012 up until their defeat against Tunisia, but because his performances have shown just how imperative he is to their chances of becoming the first nation to retain the World Cup since Brazil in 1962. Kylian Mbappe might provide the stardust, but there can be no doubt that Griezmann is the glue for France. Despite playing only 287 minutes out of a possible 360 at the time of writing, the former Barca man has created 14 chances, the best of any player in the competition, whilst also ranking 5th for passes into the penalty area and 2nd for successful crosses. And what is even more remarkable is that a clearly energised Griezmann, fresh after a stop-start 22-23 campaign with Atletico Madrid, has put in a monster 11 tackles and interceptions, 10 more than Mbappe and Giroud combined, and only topped by one forward in the competition, Morocco's Hakim Ziyech. After a difficult few years, Griezmann has simply been world-class in Qatar. 1. Marcus Rashford. If this tournament had been played in the summer, like a regular World Cup, there is very little chance that Gareth Southgate would have picked Marcus Rashford. The 25-year-old forward, first capped in 2016, had endured a nightmare 21-22 campaign and finished with just 5 League and Champions League goals to his name. But re-energised by the belief that new Man United manager Erik ten Hag has instilled in him, the Red Devils Academy graduate has been a player reborn this season, currently topping the club's scoring charts with 8. Deservedly recalled to the England setup, he came off the bench and scored against Iran, and after a disappointing team performance against the USA, was trusted from the start in their final group game against Wales. With the game 0-0 at half-time, Rashford scored a wonderful free kick, then created Foden's goal a minute later by nicking the ball off Ben Davies before capping a wonderful performance with his 3rd goal in just 132 minutes of action, becoming the first Man United player to score 3 goals at a World Cup since Bobby Charlton in 1966. It marks an incredible turnaround from a player who many were too quick to write off. So those were our 10 shock stars of the 2022 World Cup, but what did you make of our selection and can you name any more? Let us know in the comments below and we'll do our best to reply. If you enjoyed this video, please leave it a like and subscribe to Euro Football Daily if you're new here. Thanks for watching, we'll see you next time.